Hi, and welcome to Tom's Take on a Thursday. I'm going to call it a Throwback Thursday. I'm going to do this every Thursday now, kind of go back in time, nostalgic aspects of my life to share with you that hopefully you all can relate to. I was brought up in Lansing, as I've mentioned many a times, and the school that I'm panning to right now is Foster School. This school right here, Foster, is 101 years old. Was born in 1918. This is where I went K through 6. Living here in the hood, east side of Lansing. I loved it. I just want to show you why this was such a great neighborhood and this was such a great school. As I cross Francis Street, which is on the east side of Foster, the great thing about Foster School was this. When we went to elementary school, we had a morning session and an afternoon session. And what we ended up doing was going home for lunch. And I would, you'd walk out here. I'm going to take you the block and a half to my house on Kipling. But what I liked about it the most was, it's like your day was, if you had a bad morning, you could go home and, kind of recoil for 90 minutes. And during those 90 minutes, so we get out 11:15, it was about a 7, or I take that back, I'm making 5 minutes, 5-minute walk home, and I would catch the last 10 minutes of the Andy Griffith show while I was so engaged with that show. And then 30 minutes, all 30 minutes of probably one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, The Dick Van Dyke Show. From New Rochelle, New York. Robin, Laura, Petrie, Richie, Jerry and Millie, Sally, Buddy, Mel, Alan Brady, the whole gang. That made every day a great day, watching The Dick Van Dyke Show. My mom would have my peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all laid out on a tray in the living room with a bowl of tomato soup, maybe a pickle on the side. That would be like 3 days a week. The other 2 days, grilled cheese, pickle, and chocolate milk. So anyway, I'm at the corner of Vine Street, Francis. I'm making the turn down Vine Street. It's where Mike Livesey lived, right here in this house. He was a stud Eastern Quaker football player. And then the Kowalski's down here with a brick wall. I can tell you about a story about every person in this neighborhood. This was in the 60s when everybody knew everybody. It was great. It's like in my neighborhood right now in East Lansing, I know a lot of people, but it's not like, everybody's out hanging out every night. In this neighborhood, you knew every house. You knew the neighborhood. You knew all the people in the neighborhood. Basically, 12, 14 houses that way, 12, 14 houses this way. Now I'm getting to Kipling Boulevard here where I'm going to turn left, as you can see. And we're heading up Kipling. I'm going to tell you a little story about each of these houses and why this was such a great neighborhood. My house is that yellow house. It was white at the time. Doug Waters lives there right now, but he revamped that house, but I lived there from 1956 when I was born to 1968. So let me just focus on these 4 or 5 houses right here. There was our house. The gray house was the Brookses. The blue house was the Cooks, down in Peggy Cook's family. Over here, the Wises, Bob and Shirley Wises family, 2 boys, Chris and Craig. The Cooks had Denny, Debbie, who passed away, unfortunately at 12, Diane and Dave, and this was such a wonderful neighborhood. And then the Raymonds, I'm going to show you up here, 2 doors up. I'm going to tell you why. I'll tell you one story why this is such a great neighborhood. Was the fact, I'm going to give you an example. When we all came home from our respective family vacations, the whole neighborhood would come out to greet you. It was amazing. And then it seemed like every night in this neighborhood, the moms and dads were talking to each other at the end of the driveway while the kids were playing in the street. Every night. You don't see that anymore. All you do is see closed houses. You don't see kids in the neighborhood. Even in our neighborhood in East Lansing, we have kids. I mean, you don't see them that much. I think there's one of the reasons in the summertime we didn't have air conditioning. So when you didn't have air conditioning, you had to get out of the house. You're like a sweat box in there. Maybe that has something to do with it. It was just a different environment. It was a wonderful neighborhood. We eventually, when I was in 6th grade, moved up to Groesbeck, Kimberly Downs area, and I'll go into that some other time, and that was a great neighborhood as well. But it just seemed like neighborhoods were neighborhoods back then. I miss that. It's a Throwback Thursday. I want to go back in time. I wish things were kind of like this right now, but I think there's a lot of reasons that things are not the way they are right now. And technology and kids looking at screens like I keep talking about and not playing. We'd be running around all this neighborhood. We have apple fights, squirt gun fights. Amazing neighborhood.